Russia is helping Iran kill Americans. That is the story confirmed on Friday, March 6th by The Washington Post, CBS News, CNN, ABC News, and NBC News, all independently, all from multiple sources, including a senior U.S. official with direct knowledge. Russia is providing Iran with real-time intelligence on the locations and movements of American troops, ships, and aircraft in the Middle East. The same intelligence that helps an Iranian ballistic missile find a U.S. military base. The same intelligence that, according to the best available evidence, contributed to the death of 6 American soldiers in that triple-wide trailer at the Shuaiba port in Kuwait on day 2 of this war. And the Trump administration's response, delivered by Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, was this: the intelligence sharing is not making any difference with respect to the military operations in Iran. When Fox News' Peter Doocy asked President Trump about it, Trump was in the middle of a White House roundtable on the future of college sports. He answered the question about Russia helping Iran target American soldiers in the middle of a discussion about college sports. That is where we are on day 7 of an undeclared war that was supposed to be over by now. Let's go through every confirmed development of the last 24 hours in full, because all of it matters, and all of it is verified from primary sources published in the last 20 hours. NPR, Washington Post, CBS News, CNN, ABC News, NBC News, Reuters, Newsweek, Axios, Al Jazeera, and TASS. Start with the Russia story, because it is the most consequential single intelligence disclosure of this entire conflict. 4 independent news organizations, the Washington Post, CBS, CNN, and NBC, all confirmed Friday, from separate sets of sources, that Russia has been providing Iran with intelligence about the locations and movements of American troops, ships, and aircraft in the Middle East. The Washington Post broke the story Friday afternoon. CBS News confirmed it with 3 sources, including a senior U.S. official with direct knowledge. NBC News confirmed it with 4 sources, specifying that the assistance involves location intelligence, but that there is no current indication Moscow is helping to directly direct individual strikes. ABC News confirmed it with 2 people familiar with U.S. intelligence reporting. CNN confirmed it from multiple sources. Every major American national security news organization reporting on the same intelligence finding from independent sources on the same day. The implications are stark. Iran's targeting of U.S. military positions throughout this war, the strikes on the Kuwait Operations Center that killed 6 soldiers, the strikes on the 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain, the drone attacks on Al Udeid in Qatar, all of these required specific real-time intelligence about where American forces were located. Russia, which has operated surveillance infrastructure across the Middle East for years, has the capability to provide exactly that kind of information. Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi had said on Friday that Russia and China were assisting Iran politically and in other ways. The Washington Post confirmed what other ways means. Republican Congressman Joe Wilson of South Carolina posted on X, "War criminal Putin is killing Americans by providing Iran intel. Russia must be held accountable for mass chaos and death." Republican Congressman Michael McCall of Texas posted, "Iran armed Russia with lethal drones to massacre Ukrainians, and now Putin is reportedly returning the favor by providing Iran with intelligence meant to help target and kill Americans." 2 senior Republicans directly accusing Putin of helping kill American soldiers. The Kremlin's Dmitry Peskov, asked about the intelligence findings, declined to comment to the Washington Post. At his own briefing earlier Friday, Peskov said only, "We are in dialogue with representatives of the Iranian leadership, and we will certainly continue this dialogue." He added that Moscow was seeing a significant increase in demand for Russian energy resources as a consequence of the war, meaning Russia is profiting economically from a conflict in which it is also, according to U.S. intelligence, helping to target American forces. Putin held a phone call with Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian on Saturday, confirmed by TASS and the Kremlin. According to the Kremlin readout, Putin expressed condolences for Khamenei's death and reaffirmed Russia's stance in favor of an immediate cessation of hostilities. Pezeshkian thanked Putin for Russia's solidarity with the Iranian people. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth had been asked earlier this week whether the U.S. had a message for Moscow or Beijing given their calls for ceasefire. His answer, "I don't have a message for them. They're not really a factor here. They are, in fact, a factor here." Now to the unconditional surrender demand and Iran's response, because together they tell the story of a war that has no visible exit. On Friday morning, before the Russia intelligence story broke, President Trump posted on Truth Social, "There will be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender." He wrote in the same post that after the current regime surrenders, great and acceptable leaders must be selected, and pledged that the U.S. and its allies would help rebuild Iran afterward. He added, "Iran will have a great future. Make Iran great again. MIGA." In a phone interview with Axios shortly afterward, Trump was asked what unconditional surrender actually means in practical terms. He said, "Unconditional surrender could be that they announce it, but it could also be when they can't fight any longer because they don't have anyone or anything to fight with." He also told CNN's Dana Bash that he is not particularly concerned about whether Iran becomes a democratic state after the war, as long as the new leader treats the U.S. and Israel well. He claimed the U.S. has already sunk 25 Iranian battleships. He previously promised immunity to IRGC and police officers who lay down their arms, warning all others of what he called certain death. Press Secretary Leavitt, asked by reporters outside the White House what unconditional surrender looks like, said, "What the president means is that when he, as commander-in-chief of the U.S. Armed Forces, determines that Iran no longer poses a threat to the United States of America and the goals of Operation Epic Fury have been fully realized, then Iran will essentially be in a place of unconditional surrender, whether they say it themselves or not." Frankly, they don't have a lot of people to say that for them, because the United States and the State of Israel have completely wiped out more than 50 leaders of the former terrorist regime, including the supreme leader himself. The United States' formal position is now that it will define Iran's surrender for Iran, regardless of whether Iran agrees that it has surrendered. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian responded on Saturday morning with a line that has now been confirmed by NPR, AP, Reuters, CBS, and Al Jazeera. That's a dream that they should take to their grave. He then did something extraordinary. In the same statement, he apologized to the neighboring countries that Iran's missiles and drones have been striking for the past week. "I should apologize to the neighboring countries that were attacked by Iran on my own behalf," he said. "From now on, they should not attack neighboring countries or fire missiles at them unless we are attacked by those countries. I think we should solve this through diplomacy." It was a remarkable admission. The civilian government of Iran, its constitutionally elected president, apologizing for a military campaign and suggesting the armed forces had been operating beyond the bounds of what the political leadership had ordered. Iranian Armed Forces spokesman General Abul Fazl Shakarchi added what appeared to be a clarification, though it muddied the picture further. "We have not hit countries that did not provide space for America to invade our country." Since American forces operate in bases across the Gulf, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, that statement means essentially every Gulf state remains a legitimate target under Iran's stated framework. The contradiction between Pezeshkian's apology and the IRGC's continuing operations became visible almost immediately. Parliamentary Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, one of Iran's hardline figures, directly contradicted Pezeshkian, posting on social media that the attacks followed directives from the late Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei, and that as long as Gulf nations host U.S. military bases, the countries will not enjoy peace. Air raid sirens sounded in Bahrain, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia within hours of Pezeshkian's apology. The UAE reported intercepting 16 ballistic missiles and 121 drones on Saturday alone. Kuwait's petroleum company announced a precautionary reduction in crude oil production and refining operations. On Saturday morning, Trump posted again, "Today, Iran will be hit very hard," including, he warned, areas and groups of people not previously considered as targets. He also claimed that Iran had surrendered to its Middle East neighbors, a reading of Pezeshkian's apology that Iran's own armed forces immediately rejected by resuming their attacks. Iran's FM Aragchi separately reported on Saturday that a U.S. strike had hit the water supply infrastructure for 30 villages on Keshem Island in the Persian Gulf, taking out a desalination plant and cutting drinking water to the area. Aragchi called it a blatant and desperate crime. The IRGC also announced it had targeted what it described as separatist groups in Iraq's Kurdistan region. The Arab League announced that foreign ministers will hold an emergency meeting on Sunday to discuss Iranian attacks on member states. That meeting will bring together the governments of every Arab country that has now been struck, threatened, or destabilized by a war none of them chose. The human cost is now being quantified by Iran's own emergency services. The head of Iran's Red Crescent Society, Pir Hossein Kolivand, published an initial damage assessment on Saturday that confirmed 6,668 civilian units have been damaged by U.S.-Israeli airstrikes across Iran. That includes 5,535 residential buildings, 1,041 commercial properties, 14 medical centers, 65 schools, and 13 Red Crescent facilities. Total confirmed deaths across the conflict now exceed 1,320 people, according to Lebanese and Iranian state media, with Lebanon accounting for more than 200 of those deaths as Israeli forces push into the Bekaa Valley and Beirut's southern suburbs. 500,000 people in Dahieh received Israeli military evacuation orders this week, causing mass panic across Beirut. The IDF has now conducted 2,500 strikes with more than 6,000 weapons since February 28th. Its military chief says Israel is moving to the next phase. On the same day all of this was happening, the State Department approved a new $151.8 million arms sale to Israel, confirmed by the State Department's own notification to Congress. The war is entering its second week with no ceasefire, no exit framework, an unconditional surrender demand that Iran says it will take to the grave, and the confirmed intelligence that the country Iran is using to help aim its missiles at American soldiers is being supplied by Russia, a country whose President Trump has repeatedly called a friend, a country whose invasion of Ukraine Trump has been trying to negotiate an end to, and a country which is now, by every intelligence account, actively helping kill Americans in the Middle East. Trump was asked about it during a college sports roundtable. He answered. He moved on. Stay with us.